to share their expertise in this field. Either they experience working in the field or they, over the years of knowledge and world of knowledge that they have from the experience. So just next slide. So just wanted to have you think of what is the job in your own definition. What is the job means to you? 在你的这个定义里面，一个工作是什么样的一个定义？And what is an occupation? 那一个专业对你来说又是什么样的一个定义？ Last one, what is a career means to you? Your own definition. 你自己对这个一个事业的一个定义，你人生里面对你来说什么样一个状况是一个工作？那什么样情况之下你可以成为一个类似所谓的专业，有一个所谓的职业？那什么样的一个定义对你来说是一个事业 ？Okay, so write it down. What is the definition for you as a job, as a career, as an occupation, and as a career? And then we'll come back at the end of the workshop. Maybe we'll see if you have find some answer to those questions. Okay? 那我们听完这个4个人的分享之后呢，希望你们对这3个这个工作也好，职业也罢，还是你的人生里面你要有一番的事业的定义，希望我们能够给你一些的答案。Okay, so I hope that you can find the answer at the end of the workshop. Next slide. So it is my honor to introduce my good friend that I met 20 years ago, Violet Poon. So Violet recently joined Tenfold HR Solutions after spending her last 20 years, I like to say big numbers, then 2 decades, working for the nonprofit sectors. She has strong focus on supporting not-for-profit organizations like us, ETA, to develop and implement recruitment processes to minimize the impact of biases in decision-making. So this is important for her. That's why she spent 20 years in doing that, supporting the nonprofit organization. Recently, she joined the Tenfold HR Solutions. She had worked in the past 20 years with board of directors and executive leaders, so higher management level. She have helped build and grow the team's skills, manage performance, develop policy and processes, and she facilitated workshops. Violet have also facilitated intercultural seminar for staff in diverse sectors, including healthcare, engineering, energy, and government within Alberta. She now brings her expertise onto the Tenfold team as a senior HR generalist. So 那现在马上欢迎这个主讲人，具有20多年资深的人力资源与招聘顾问的这个 Violet。他呢今天主要跟我们谈论一下求职成功必备的一些工具跟技巧。So she's going to talk a little bit about job search tools and interview techniques to get you hired. I'm going to bring Violet Poon. Violet.
Thank you, Wilma. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. And if you're watching today, I appreciate the introduction and just this opportunity to speak with you. So as Wilma mentioned, I'm going to be talking about job search tools. Maybe we can just go to the next slide and I'll talk a little bit about what are those tools. So in my work, I look at lots of resumes. So I help my companies, my clients to hire staff. So part of that is looking at helping them to find the right person for the jobs that they have. So as if you are looking for work, there's a few, what I'll say, tools or documents that are very important to have to apply for work and to show the employer or company what it is that your skills are, your education, your knowledge, all of the things that you can bring to that position. So something that we talk about and use, almost every job is going to ask you for what we call a resume. So a resume is a document. It's typically, we may say we like to have it around 2 pages. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer, maybe 3 pages, but I don't recommend that you have one that's longer than about 3 pages. So what the resume is it's a document to talk about your experiences, your skills, your education, and it should be all matching for the job that you want to do and the job that you are applying to. Okay, so you might have some different education or maybe some different experiences, but what is important is that every resume you do, we call it tailoring to the job. So you want to look at what is the job, what are the responsibilities, what is the important education, experience, all of that. What is important that's related to the job, and what do you have, and those are the things that you should put in your resume. Okay. There's different ways that you can show that information in the document. So we call different types of resumes. And if you're not really sure about how to write a resume, or you don't really know about different types of resumes, I know that the panel and the other speakers, and I know that Wilma is very experienced with this. There's lots of websites as well that have samples and information. So I really encourage you to learn more about different types of resumes and what you think is going to be best for you. So the 3 that we listed on this slide is talking about, the first one is talking about what we call chronological resume. So a chronological resume is going to list your experience from the job you're doing right now or the last job you did, and then it works down from so your current job, and then it works backwards. So the jobs you had before that, and it talks about your different experiences you had. So if you have some experience that's related to the job you want to apply for and it's similar, then the chronological resume is a good type of resume that you could use. Okay. Another one is what we call functional resume. So a functional resume is good if you're maybe looking at changing your job, so it's not exactly the same as your previous experience. So I've worked with a number of people that were like newcomers to Canada. And so for some of them, they use a functional resume because the job title that they had before they came to Canada might be not exactly the same type of job that they're applying for in Canada, or maybe it's a little bit different. So the functional resume is not listing your job, like necessarily your jobs, but it's highlighting different types of skills that you have. Okay. So for example, maybe you're applying for a job where customer service skills is very important. So in your functional resume, you're going to have a section that talks about your customer service skills. Or maybe you are going to apply for a job where you have to do have good computer skills, like using computer skills. So this functional resume, you can highlight all your computer skills and the computer programs that you use. So the functional resume is good if you're maybe looking to change your type of job. So it's not exactly the same as your current job or your previous jobs that you've had, okay? You can also do a combination resume as well. So in the resume, it's also important to think who is looking at your resume. So I work in human resources or HR, and I look at many resumes, but I am not the supervisor of the position. So I just look at the resume, and then I decide which resumes I pass on to the supervisor to look at. We call it the supervisor, or we use the term hiring manager, but that person is the person that decides who is going to be hired. So when you apply for a job, usually the first person to look at the resume is me, which is human resources, and then I decide out of maybe 50 or 100 resumes, I might send maybe 10 resumes to the supervisor or hiring manager to look at. So it's important to know that I don't have a lot of time to look at resumes. So the third resume, the combination resume, is really good because it also emphasizes your accomplishments. So when you think about what you did, what did you do to do your job well? So if you are competing or you are applying for the job with 10 people that have very similar experience and education to you, what did you do to do your job better than all the other people? Okay, so sometimes you have to think it's a little bit like I tell people it's a little bit like a race. You want to get first to the finish line, but you have to think about how you can do something maybe better or faster or more effective than somebody else. So the accomplishments is very important to think about what you did that makes you stand out from other people. Okay, so when I look at resumes, sometimes I just have, before we could say we look at resumes maybe 20 seconds. Now, because we get very busy sometimes and we have lots of resumes to look at, sometimes I might look at a resume like 10 seconds. So very short time. So make sure that when you are doing your resume, you put down the most important information that's related to the job that you are applying to. That's very important. And make sure the resume doesn't have any spelling mistakes. So you can have somebody look at your resume before you send it. All of those things are important, just how you are sharing your information in the document. Okay. The next slide we'll talk about is, you may have heard of a cover letter. So when you are looking for work, sometimes the job posting will say, please apply with a cover letter and resume, or it might say, please submit a resume. So not every job is going to ask you to submit a cover letter. All of the jobs that I recruit for, we do ask for a cover letter. So many people will ask for a cover letter and want to see one. So a cover letter is the document that you put, it's basically the document before you submit your resume. So if you have one document, the first page will be your cover letter, and the second and third page could be your resume. And what's in the cover letter is that you are putting in this letter, and you will try to address it to either HR, but what's even better is trying to get the name of the supervisor. That's even the better person to put your cover letter to. Because if you put the name of the supervisor, and I'm HR looking at it, I think, oh, this person knows the supervisor. So I will pay more attention to your application and screen you in. So we use it's called screening in. So that means that I will pick you to share your resume and application with the hiring manager. Okay, so what I do is I screen resumes. So it's called screening. And so I will pick your application to share with the supervisor. So if you can get the name of the supervisor, that's an important tip if you can try to get their name. So in your cover letter, it's not going to be everything that you put in your resume. You are not going to repeat the things that you put in your resume in the cover letter. What you want to do, though, is get me interested to want to read your resume. So you want to think about what is it that is like going to be like highlight or summarize something that's important for me to know about you. So maybe that's your experience, your skill. Something that might be important is your education, if I need some specific education. When we talk about skills, sometimes like we talk about what we call transferable skill or communication skills. So those are some things that you can highlight into your cover letter. When you look at a job that you want to apply to, and it will talk to you about the qualifications, so the experience, education, skills, you can take those and then put into your cover letter what are the things that you have done that is similar to the job that you're applying to. So always remember, the people that are looking at your cover letter and resume, they're trying to figure out, does this person have some experience, skills, knowledge that's related to the job that they're applying to? So if it's not related to the job, then don't include it, because you only have one page, usually one page for cover letter and 2 pages for resume. So you want to put the most important information that's related to the job that you're applying to in your cover letter and resume. So every time you have to change your cover letter when you apply for a job, and your resume, every time. Okay, there's lots of templates out there. Like if you don't know how to write a cover letter, you never wrote one before, I see there's like a link to, there's free workshops. There's people and organizations that will help you to write the cover letter as well. But I tell people, I recommend that you always include a cover letter with your resume. Okay, it's important for me and my supervisors. If we don't have a cover letter, sometimes we don't look at your resume. So it's very important to include. Okay. So once you submit the cover letter and resume, and then you get a call, you might get it for an interview. Then I'll just next slide will just be talking a little bit about the job interview. So I'm just giving you a little bit of information, not everything. So I know that other speakers will give you more information, but I very much recommend you connect with Wilma. And like I said, there are lots of organizations and resources online as well that can help you. Okay, so in the interview, if you get a call and you are offered an interview, that's I tell people congratulations, because that's a good step. It's a good thing to have an interview, because it gives you lots of practice. So there's 4 P's to having a successful job interview. The number 1 is always prepare. So lots of research the company, read the job posting, the job description if they have it, really know what the company and the job is. And also prepare with interview questions. There's lots of interview questions that people can ask you, and there's lots of resources out there to help you to practice. So what I do is there's lots of sample questions, and then you can write out your answers and practice saying it. Practice saying what you want to say, how you want to say it. If it's a in-person interview or over a virtual interview, make sure if it's virtual, you also practice, make sure the lighting is good, what you're wearing, the audio is good. Okay. And then if it's in person too, watch out for your body language. So body language is not just what you are saying, but how you are sitting. You can take notes, you can have a glass of water, you can make eye contact looking at the people that are asking you the questions. So all of these things are important in the interview as well. Yeah. And then the last slide I think I have is just talking a little bit, and then just the next slide. So the interview questions I talk about, some of the common questions are, tell me about yourself. This is probably one of the most common questions, but you have to make sure you are not talking for a long time. So you don't need to answer the question in 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, you just need to answer the question in maybe like 2 to 3 minutes. But what is the most important thing about you that the interviewers should know that's related to the job? So you don't have to, and don't talk about things that, like, don't talk about your family or, where you're from or things like that. Because in Canada, we are not allowed to ask anything about, your culture, your background, your family status, these type of things. So just make sure the information you share is related to those things, like your skills, your knowledge, your education, your experience related to the job. Okay, so you don't need to talk about you personally. What is your strength and weaknesses? That's a very common question as well. So think about, sometimes people don't like to talk about their weakness, but we want to know where you think you can develop or improve or get better in. So that's a common question to prepare for. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? We want to know that you're not going to quit after 6 months. So we want to know, how is this job related to what you want to do? And then prepare, very important, prepare 1 or 2 questions at the end when they ask you, do you have any questions for us? So sometimes people ask, what should I ask? One of the common things I tell them is, describe a day in this job. Very simple question. Or what do you think is the most challenging part of this job? So that you get to know a little bit more about the position. Or another question is, describe the workplace culture. What is it like to work in that place? Like, how do people work together? So those are some questions that you can prepare. So I recommend you have at least 1 or 2 questions. And then another type of questions that they ask you is when they start with, tell me a time that you got into a conflict. What would you do if? Have you ever? Give us an example. So those are what we call as behavioral questions. So we want to know if you had experienced a situation like that in your previous job, and what did you do? And what we look for is using this STARS method on how you answer. So the STARS method is that you give the situation, you talk about the task, you talk about your action, and what was the result, and what was the skills that you used, or what are the skills that you learned. I know this is lots of information about the interview, but what I will say is there's a lot of resources out there to help you prepare, and you can learn a lot more about the STAR and do lots of practice. Those are the type of questions that I recommend people do lots of practice on to get familiar with how to answer using the STAR method. So that was my part of the presentation. So thank you very much for your attention. And
Okay, I know we can only do a little bit overview because each of the topic, we can expand it into like a whole week of workshop to actually learn and own it, right? So thank you so much, Violet, for your insights on those topics. The only thing that I find is the more you're doing it, the better you become. So there's no shortcut. Do your own, just write your own cover letter to start. When people ask me to help them with cover letter and resume, I don't write it for them. I give them the idea how to write it and guide them. So you have to do it because you're the one who is going to do the job. Nobody will do job searching for you. You're the one who have to learn those skills. Once you learn it, it belongs to you forever. And to me, thank you for the little bit overview from Violet. And so think about it. If you have any question, I am sure you have a ton of question. I even have a lot of question too, but I'll leave it at the end. So next, I'm going to introduce to you the guest speaker, Ling. Ling is an experienced facilitator and instructor with over 15 years of experience. She have taught in post-secondary institutions, private companies, and nonprofit organizations. Ling recently worked as a facilitator and skill development coach in employment training program at EMCN. She also enjoyed being very active, volunteering in different community and organization. So 那很开心今天为大家介绍这一位讲师呢，葛林，他具有15年专业讲师的经历，目前呢是在这个移民机构 EMCN 一个非牟利机构担任讲师。那今天呢，他要来跟我们介绍几个移民就业培训课程与项目。So Ling is going to tell you a little bit the employment readiness classes and trainings for immigrants. So Ling, you can start. Welcome.
Thank you, Wilma. Thank you for inviting me to speak in today's workshop. It's my pleasure to share information about the employment programs at EMCN. Okay, so let's start with the CIB program I'm working for now. The name of CIB is Careers and Business Program. This is a 5-month bridging program for business professionals, which means either you have educational background or work experience in business-related areas. You will be qualified for this program based on your education or experience. And during the 5 months, you will have 3 months part-time study and also 2 months full-time practicum at the end of the program. And the practicum will be paid, so you will have income. You can view it as a 2-month contract job, which is very valuable for most newcomer professionals to land a professional jobs or experience in Canada. And sorry, and the English requirement for this program is CLBA 5 in 4 areas: speaking, listening, writing, and reading, or above. And we only take 15 participants for each cohort. And the start date of next cohort will be July 4th this year. And I also want to mention that this is a program for professionals who are looking for employment rather than starting your own business. Because I know the name of this program is kind of confusing. Some clients can reach out to me to ask, I want to start my own business. Is this program for me? Unfortunately, no. So in the first 3 months in class training, we offer general employability skills training. Like Violet just introduced in her presentation, we will offer some information about how to prepare your resume, how to do effective job search, and how to understand Canadian workplace culture. And we also will invite different professionals or HR managers to our class to share the hands-on experience, and also it's a very good way for you to network in a professional way. So that's what we will offer in the first 3 months in class training. We don't teach any accounting, HR, or marketing, those kind of academic knowledge. Okay, so that's the general idea about how this program will work. Okay, so Diane, could you please move to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so another program at EMCN is Constructing Future. This program is focused on project management. So if you have any experience or you are interested in pursuing project management in Canada, this program might be a good fit for you. However, it's a full-time study. That's different from CIB program. The first 26 weeks, the first 16 weeks will be full-time training. So you will have class from Monday to Friday. I think it's about 2 to 6 hours every day. And also you will have 10 weeks of unpaid full-time practicum. So that's like 10 weeks volunteer work experience. You don't have any wage subsidy. And the participant for this program should be currently unemployed or working less than 20 hours a week. And also please know that 80% of seats are only for EI recipient, or only 20% of seats are for like non-EI recipients. And if you are on EI because of like the sickness EI, you are not qualified for this program as well. So it should be normal like EI recipients, okay? And please know that this program, the name is Constructing Future, but it's not a construction focused program, okay? We have participants with background in IT, construction, manufacturing, nonprofit, etc. Because a lot of industry, they need people working in project management areas, okay? And the English requirement for this program is CLBA 6 in 4 areas or above. And each cohort will take 20 participants. And the start date of next cohort will come soon in May this year. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so the two training program I just mentioned, they are designed for professionals. So the English level is kind of higher and we require, professional experience. The next program I will introduce soon is kind of for general newcomers. You only need to have very basic English level. It's a 5 months full-time training. We will introduce like financial literacy, computer skills, basic skills to find a work, and English learning. So it's very comprehensive content in this program. And if you are eligible participant in this program, will receive monthly living allowance from Alberta Works. And the English requirement for this program is CLBA 3 to 4. And we only take 20 participants for each cohort. And the start date for the next cohort will be August 2nd this year. Okay, so this program, Job Ready programming, is kind of different from the 3 programs I just mentioned, because the last 3 programs will be groups learning, but Job Ready program is a one-on-one, support for clients. You will meet a career and employment counselor, and we also will require clients to attend some like coaching sessions, like workshops, to help you, to help with your job search. And who can access this programming? If you are a permanent resident of Canada, or Canadian citizen, or refugee with positive notice of decision letters, you are qualified for this program. So if you need any, extra information, you can ask me a question at the end of the presentation in the Q&A period. And also welcome to, connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ling, for the introduction of the 4 programs. So for those that are not familiar with CLBA, I just wanted to mention a little bit CLB means Canadian Language Benchmark. So each one of you, when you are landed in Canada, you can find out your local assessment center. So here in Edmonton, we have one with Catholic Social Services. So that's the only assessment center to find out your CLB level, your Canadian language benchmark. A means for attending programs. So they will give you the, I think right now it's all online test. You can find out where your language level at when you try to enter into those programs. So each one of the programs require language proficiency. Most of the employment training program requires 7 and above, and some are lower, like 5. Ling, your program CID is 5. 5 is considered really, really low.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not that. Yeah. I want to add one more information. Like for CLB test, I think they offer the Catholic Social Service. They offer in-person and online test both, and it's free. So just to call them to make appointment, either online or in person. However, you cannot, repeat it within 6 months from your first appointment. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, we will talk about more. I do have some information because you mentioned about self-employee, start your own business. I believe someone asked that question as well when they register the workshop, and I will have some of the answer at the end about starting your own business as a self-employed person. So thank you, Ling, for your information. So next speakers that I'm going to introduce to you, Chau Hoang. Chau is, she have a lot of experience working with different employer, used to be with the University of Alberta, and she just changed her career, become my coworker, working at for the government of Alberta now as a career advisor. So Ling have over 10 years of experience working in various academic and nonprofit settings. So she also teach in her spare time. She's ESL, English as Second Language teachers, instructors. She teach newcomers and immigrant workshop on different topics. Chau take pride in helping people develop their skills and ability so they can connect with a greater future for the hope. And she have a very diverse background. So Chau, here's your stage. Please share your topic with us, networking. So this is networking and how you can tap into the hidden job market. So hidden job market is really important because as far as we know, job posting on the market is only 25%. So 75% of those jobs are not advertised, are hidden. So how do you tap into those markets? So I'm going to get Chau to give us some insight how you can use your network, how you can be good at your networking. So again, keep in mind, we're talking about in Canada, not networking in the little community for social purpose, but networking to land you a good career. So Chau, tell us how.
Thank you so much, Wilma, for the introduction, and lovely being here, and nice meeting everyone. So next slide, please. So my first topic is networking, and I gave a few points on what networking is. It's so important in Canada because this is kind of tapping into the hidden job market, because like Wilma said, not all job postings that you look on the website are posted. So networking is a great way to kind of lead into finding those hidden jobs. So what is it, right? It's a way I find, like, when you're talking about networking, it's building the relationship, because whoever you work with, whoever you meet, those are relationships that you need to maintain and build. And networking is a way to kind of give you that opportunity to get to know the employer, get to know the company, get to find more information about the company that you're interested in before you even apply for the job, right? So to me, networking is like sort of like a give and take. So you find information, you connect, you share information, you go to social events, and then you kind of need to be open. So it's not the goal is to find a job. Okay, the goal is to kind of learn more about what is available around you. And networking is a great opportunity to do that. So one thing to remember is that when you're networking with people, I'll give you some tips. Just don't have the goal in mind that, hey, I want to networking with Chau because Chau will help me find a job. No. Okay. You want to network with me because something is interesting about me, or that you want to learn more, or how, questions that, perhaps my experience can provide information to kind of help you or become resourceful. Like today, this is a great opportunity for you to network. You've learned 2 different speakers that are already presented. They can give you more information about the programs and what they can kind of help you with. So those are great opportunities for you to kind of think about, not leading to a job. Okay, so that's one thing. So the other points I'm going to talk is who can be your network. I mentioned we can be your network. Think about people in your social circle. So your family, your friends. But most importantly, if we're thinking about careers or jobs, is like, who have you used before that are your references? Okay. Why? Because they've already have certain skills or things that they want to highlight about you that, like references are people that you use when you find a job, right? That can like talk about what are your strengths, what value do you add onto the company and stuff. So if you've already have a few people that you use as references when you're looking for work, use those people. Okay. They could be a huge reference because people know people. Like for instance, I know Wilma, now I know Violet, and now I know Ling, and then I know like the Taiwanese Association, and then you guys, right? So think about who within your circle that you could use as references. So it can be everybody that you know. Okay. How do you develop and improve your networking skills? Well, there are different ways. So one is like you need to kind of have a goal in mind, right? So what type of skills do you want to kind of develop? So is it public speaking, right? So within your network, who is good at public speaking? If you want to, work in a field that you don't know about, like who in your network is already working in that field or know somebody that work in. So you kind of want to have a goal in mind and not just network with anyone. So think about what your goal is, because it will eventually lead to a career, right? But you kind of have to have a plan. So that's the number 1 tip. Number 2 is I always tell people, like, once you have a goal, you need to have a plan, right? Plan A first is a goal. Plan B is what do you do after you have a goal? So, you need to kind of prepare your brand. So Violet talked about, interviewing, right? Like what are the questions that interviewers will ask you, like employers, like talk about yourself. So you kind of need to know, what are your strengths? What skills can you offer if you were to, network with this employer that might potentially offer you a position? So what can you talk about yourself? You need to kind of know yourself first, not just, oh, I want a job, I want to work for someone, but I have no idea what I'm good at. So you need to kind of have that selling feature, like what are you good at first? So I call that brand. So what is your brand? Like, are you passionate in something? Are you good at something? So it doesn't have to be long. It can be a short couple sentence. So if I was to introduce you to somebody, Wilma did this, she read a blurb about all the speakers. So that is our brand, right? Like, so something about me. What do I need to know about you? So think about, if I were to introduce you to a potential employer, what can you say about yourself? Like, what are your values? What are you interested in? And what are you good at? So that I can take away, and if there's a position or I come across a employer that might be hiring for someone that you're interested in applying to, I can remember you. Okay. And then another thing is, like, you can ask your friends and family for feedback. You could ask, organizations that like BGS, or like if you're doing interviews and stuff, or, what are your strengths? Ask them, like, if you have no idea, what would you say are my strengths? Like, what do you say are the things that, that I should highlight? So you could ask your family and friends, or even your references, for feedback. And then the last tip is how to improve is always practice. Practice make perfect, right? So always, like, practice in front of the mirror if you're shy. Practice talking to your friends and family about, if I were to introduce myself, what are the things that I'm looking for, and I'm good at, right? So those are the tips on how to improve your networking skills. And then the last thing that I'll talk about is networking online for career success. So how do you do that? Well, attending events like these, like your Taiwanese association, you meet like already 3 different speakers, right? People that you know, going and reaching out in emails, LinkedIn. So I'll talk a little bit more about the platforms and stuff. And you can follow companies. They sometimes have like, you know, blogs on LinkedIn. You can follow them and then kind of get to know about the companies and like who has worked there and what are they doing. So those networking opportunities you can attend in person or online. There's like a lot of variety, but make sure, you know, you only follow the ones that you're interested, like be open-minded, but you need to kind of have a plan for that, right? Okay, next slide, please. So hidden job market, okay, it's showing up. So how do you connect with employers to find unadvertised job? Like Wilma said, some of the postings employers look for aren't really posted. Why? Because they probably have somebody internally that they're recruiting for, or a lot of recruiters, you know, like to know, like, maybe they want to tap into their current, you know, connections and say, hey, do you know a family or friends that might be interested in this position? And if you do, maybe refer them. So they don't want to be bombarded with a whole bunch of resumes from external people, right? So how do you tap into that is identify those employers that you're interested in. So I mentioned LinkedIn, right? So when you follow these companies on the internet and blogs, you can research to see, do they have potential positions that interest you? Maybe you can connect with those, you know, employees that are currently working for that company, and they can even give you the ins. Oh, this job posting is being posted like in a week or 2. Perhaps, you know, look out for that. So those are opportunities that might not be posted right away. Preparing your speech. I talked about brand. So if you get the opportunity to kind of, you know, ask for that position and, you know, meet with someone, you want to be able to kind of advertise yourself. So what can I take away to remember? What can you offer to me and my company, right? Choose your method to contact. Right now, we have a variety of ways to connect with people remotely, like now, right? You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email. Like some postings, they actually have like the contact person or the HR that you need to submit your resume to, right? You can send them an email to introduce yourself. You can even like do a cold call, phone call, right? There are pros and cons, like advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of meeting someone in person is it's not too awkward, right? You could, you know, like meet them and then ask them like, create a conversation or whatever. Online, it's a little hard because they can screen you, you know, like if you have spelling mistakes or whatever. So one of the things I want to make sure is like before you send an email or do any cold calling and stuff, make sure you know what you're going to introduce yourself. If you're sending an email, make sure there's no like errors or any grammar mistakes, because that could potentially ruin your opportunity to get some information. So Wilma very nicely put a little link on informational interview. If you don't know anything about informational interview, it's not like a way for you to get a job. It's just basically information that you can gain to kind of meet with the potential employer to ask questions about that position, okay? So one of the things is that you reach out to the potential company or employer that you're interested in working for and just inquiring like, what are their daily work life, workday look like? Questions that are curious to you that you cannot find potentially online or with your research, right? These informational interviews are a very short interview where you could do virtually or coffee, like in person. It's usually 10 to 15 minutes. And it's a great opportunity for you to kind of ask questions about like, how is it working for that organization or company? What is their team like? So that you can do your own research to see, is this company for you? Like, would you see yourself working for them? Okay. Now, I'll go through a couple tips for informational interviews. Informational interviews, when you go and reach out to the employers, you need to kind of do your research. So you don't just want to send an email and say, hey, Chau, like, I know you're working for the government of Alberta. I would like to meet with you for 10 to 15 minutes. You need to kind of know, like, what is it that you want to ask me? So researching, like, is it, you know, my position that you're interested in being, like, potentially working for, like something about like why you're reaching out. So do your research about the company, what you need to know. Prepare your questions. So some of these questions that you can prepare is in that link over there that you can click. I'm not sure if you guys have like a copy of these like PowerPoint slides, but if not, then I'm pretty sure Wilma can send it to you. There's lots of opportunities that you can like resources that you can like search to see what informational interview questions you can ask. But these questions are basically so that you know more about that company and what potentially like that specific position entails, so that you can figure out if that interests you. Set up the interview time, so make sure that it's not too long, like an hour. It's not an actual interview, it's just to get some information. So it's very short, 10 to 15. And then once you finish the interview, well, actually, before you finish, while you're doing the interview with that potential employer to ask question, make sure you jot down information that so that you can refer back and like do your research. And then after, make sure you follow up, right? A lot of employers do really like the opportunity to say, thank you so much for meeting up with me, to give me more information, so that they remember you. And not just leave it like that, like follow up with them every so often to say, you know, I've done some research. And then you can like kind of ask them, like, are there, you know, like how are, you know, the company doing? And then that will open up opportunities for you, because then they will remember. And if there's any, you know, positions that are available within their company, they will consider you for sure. Okay, so that concludes my 2 slides. And I'll love to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chau.
You're welcome.
I asked Poon to introduce me, because I have known her the longest. So before I jump into talk, I'll get Poon to introduce me.
Yeah, I'd be happy to introduce you, Wilma. So as Wilma said, I've known her for a long time, but I'll give a kind of formal introduction to her. So Wilma has worked in various program delivery for over 15 years for both the government of Alberta and nonprofit organizations, mainly in community and social services and programs to vulnerable individual Albertans and families. She has extensive knowledge in community resources and strong abilities to guide those unemployed and underemployed, in particular immigrants through settlement counseling, employment, and career coaching. She's also a mother to 2 young children, and she managed to work full-time and also completed her diploma in career development. Business administration was her first credential that she earned in Taiwan, where she worked for 10 years in international trading and exporting business prior to immigrating to Canada. So Wilma is very passionate about volunteering and has been an active member in her community to promote diversity and inclusion through foods, arts, crafts, and culture. And she has served the board of directors of Taiwan University's Alumni Association of Alberta chapter for 10 years. And I know that she's fully committed to serve the board of directors for Edmonton Taiwanese Association as well. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Wilma.
Thank you, Violet. I have to get somebody to say it, so I have to follow through with my commitment. So so I'm gonna go. I have prepared a little bit the topic. You know, often people ask me about, so what kind of occupation or jobs is in demand? Because a lot of time, yes, job searching is, a lot of time you can control what you can control. You can have a very good resume. You can go to an interview, present it really well. But for a lot of immigrants, when they come, they have no idea what is the labor market here in Edmonton or in Alberta. So my topic would be just a little bit cover down the road, what are the careers? The purpose of this information is not for you to tell your children to take what course, okay? It's not my purpose, because I know a lot of Chinese parents, they come to ask me, okay, so my children want to study this, is that good? I would tell them, I cannot answer you because your children have to come to talk to me. So this is not for the purpose of you to use to teach your children. So just a little bit information that I collected from the Government of Alberta website, just a little bit information to share. So when we talk about occupations in demand, we need to know what is the labor market information. So labor market have two components, okay? The demand. So how many jobs are available? Okay, the demand, that's the demand of the labor market. And the other component is supply. How many people are able to work? Okay, so it's a little bit not easy to understand, but labor market can be organized in many different forms, okay? So when you ask me labor market, you can ask me, okay, what does the city of Edmonton look like? And the labor market in February compared to January is different. So it can be organized. So January, February, now into March, right? So they change. Labor market is always change. And it can also be organized into how many people in the sector, how many registered nurses are looking for jobs, and how many nursing jobs available. Okay, so it's two components under the changing all the time, right? And then industry. So what industry we are talking about? Is in construction or is in food services? So different industry have different demand and supplies, right? So some are more, some are little. And also this picture just tell you Edmonton capital region, right? We have most of us living in the city of Edmonton, but we have suburb, St. Albert, some people in a little bit suburb area. So you gotta look at what geographic areas for labor market, how many jobs are available, and how many people are looking for job in that area. So that's a little bit concept I wanted you to have, because this is gonna help you to understand the labor market. Okay, so next slide. So this is just new. I actually just got the number added on yesterday. So a little bit components to understand labor market is that unemployment rate. How many people are not working, right? So to me, I always have work with numbers. So I have to have an idea. So when you look at in February in Alberta, this is the number we're talking about. Last year, we're still in COVID, right? So 10% is pretty high. So this year, last month, 2022, we have 6.8. So it's coming down. It's a good news. The unemployment rate is decreasing. So it's good news. And the other slides that on the right is average in January and February compared in 2001 and 2002. So 10%, 10.4% versus 7%. So it's a decrease. So when the unemployment rate is decreasing, it's good news for the job seekers, right, to me. So just a little bit information to keep in mind when you hear the news. What does that mean to you, right? So especially for job seekers, you have to be a little bit sensitive to those numbers. Right now, national unemployment rate is down to 5.5. So it's really healthy economic situation for job seekers. Last year, at the same time, we're sitting at 8.3%. So it's a huge decreasing employment rate. That means more jobs are on the market, and less people are looking for jobs because they might have obtained the employment already. So I just want to throw a little bit this number. When you hear those things, what you should think of it, right? So it's a good news. So next slide, that one more analyst jobs that I obtained from Job Bank. So last month in February alone, we have over 5,000 jobs available in Edmonton. And 95% of those jobs, over 5,000 of them are full-time. So don't tell me there's no job there. Don't tell me you cannot find a job because there are jobs. And I also wanted you to look at one number was almost 4,000 jobs requires post-secondary school, right? Some kind of occupational specific training. Some kind of, you don't have to, like a lot of people that I work with, they have master's degree, university degree. So look at how many jobs require university degree, 285. So that's very small percentage of jobs that require university. And even 500 some jobs have no education requirement. Why I want to put this out there, because a lot of immigrants I came across, the first thing they told me is I have a master's degree in business. That means nothing to me because it just means nothing. If you wanted to use your education to look for a job, you might find that frustrated, okay? So number 4 number is more like experience. In Canada, experience and skill set are way over education, okay? Back home in Taiwan or maybe China, a lot of employers ask you, what's your education? What's your highest education? First thing, right? So that's very different. Here, most of the job require you have 1 to 3 years of experience. So somehow you need to get yourself in the job market before you get into your career, okay? So it's important to, I often told my client, take whatever you can get until you get what you want, okay? So it's important to get your foot in the door and then plan it out later. Just a little bit, by advertised job in Edmonton, again, almost 2,000 jobs are sales and services. 1,300 in trades, transportation, and equipment operator, the trades. And then 1,000 jobs are in the business, finance, and administration. And then the other 2, I don't want to kind of talk about it because it's not quite the immigrant targeted jobs. So management and education. And but one thing with the community and social services where I work in the industry is still possible for those who have a passion. Then these are some of the number for you to consider. You want to get into something that's easy, and then you develop from there. So that's why I wanted to show some of this number. And then next slide. Okay, here in Canada, and then we're in Alberta, right? We're not only in Alberta, we're in the city of Edmonton. So it's narrowed it down into when we look for jobs, we don't quite, some people are willing to relocate to other province, but most of us, when we look for jobs, we look at our, close by, maybe by car, travel within 20 to 30 minutes, that's reasonable. Anywhere in the city of Edmonton is fine. So these just some of the occupations in Alberta. So again, it's kind of matching the previous slide for those numbers. Retail and food services, right? So it's always have a lot of jobs in the restaurants, in the store, in the mall. So, but is what you want, right? So I have to put that question mark. when newcomer comes to me, told me that they can anything, I always say, no. It cannot be anything that you can do. You gotta have to choose what you prefer. And the second biggest sector is the skilled trades and technicians. So that will include some of the occupation here that I listed, like carpenter, scaffolder, construction crew. Some of these jobs sounds easy, but it's not. Not everybody can work in the construction, just because in Canada, safety is number one. A lot of construction work, you need to have safety training. So in order to pass your safety training, again, language is number one, right? And some of the job in the transportation, the automotive technician, mechanic, they always have high need. And now class 1 truck driver is in huge demand in the next, at least I would say, 5 years. So the last sector, probably everybody know, the health-related occupation. So when we talk about occupation, it's not just nurse, doctors, physicians. It has a huge sector that work in the field, right, in that industry. So it could be assistant occupation, like pharmacies, chiropractors, dentists, they're all in the health related. So I often told some of my clients, you know, if you choose health related occupation, it's pretty good. That unless you don't like it, you want to change career completely to other field, that's different story. So it also including a lot of laboratory technician. So those are pretty popular among the immigrants when they choose to go back to take a training program with NATE or SATE. So those are the, but again, language requirement is always a challenge to overcome for some of us, right? And then medical office assistant, hospital clerk, all those are quick training, 4 to 6 months, and then you go have a certification, and then you go on your job searching. So no matter what program you're going into, at the end, you still have to face looking for a job, isn't it? So just a little bit overview of the 3 or 4 sectors that's always in high demand in Alberta. So I'll go to the next slides to give you a little bit more visual kind of understanding about Alberta job opening in the next, until, like, this is from 2019 to 2028. So we are in 2022, another 5 to 6 years. So what is the longest line that you can see? Again, right, sales and service occupation. So those are retail stores, food and beverage, like restaurants and hotels, they always have high need. So they have the longest jobs available, over almost 300,000 jobs out there. And then the second longest line would be, again, that matching the previous slides, trades, transport, and equipment operator and related occupation, right? So those are truck drivers, any trades. So in Alberta, we have 54 trades. Some of the trades are regulated. You have to have a ticket to practice that trade, such as electrician, such as other carpenter and those trades. But some of the trades are not regulated. You don't have to have a certification to start. So it could be started as an apprentice. So the trade is always in high need. And then the third is the business, finance, and administration occupation. So especially administration occupations, it has a need in cross sectors, right? It has a need in maybe banking system. It has a need in private companies or government setting. So those are the top 3 sectors that you can have an idea what is going to be in demand in the next 5 to 6 years. So those are the top 3. So take a look at those job opening in demand. And you don't have to like design right now. Oh, now I gotta go into sales. No, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to have ideas so it can confirm to match your, oh yeah, I have a good skill to work in that sector, so I'm gonna pursue that, and there's more job out there in demand that I can attach myself to. So I thought I would give you a little bit visual picture. And even the health-related occupation is a little bit not as many as the community and social services and government services. So government offer a lot of jobs, and the health sector offer a lot of jobs for people to look at too. Okay, next slide. Okay, I want to throw this in because I find that it's interesting. It's not your traditional job that you heard of it. It's more like the new generation that kind of create those employment opportunities. So one of the alternative energy technologies, right? So the solar panels installer, the wing technician. So those are the green energy that we call it. So it's pretty popular for people to have an interest in those rather than oil and gas. So those green technology jobs is interesting. And the second biggest sector would be the cloud. This is more like the computer, the IT related professionals. So like cyber investigator, data miner, and all those new IT, in particular after pandemic, a lot of people are utilizing, the virtual, right? We use virtual to do our meetings. So that's IT people who can look into. And of course, the health related still in demand. Social media specialists, community business community planner. And then the last one I find it interesting is the lash technician. Imagine your eyelashes can be can be a job, right? It's called emergent occupations. So the occupation occur because there's a need. Remember, right? It go back to my original ideas. It's the demand and the supply, right? There's a demand. People wanted to have the eyelashes look pretty, so there's a job like created as a lash technician. So I find this interesting, a little bit slides to share with you some of this. I didn't put YouTuber. I know a lot of people consider that's a career, but that's a different topic that I'm not gonna touch for now. So I think that's all I have, right? Do I have any more slides? Okay, yeah, so that's a little bit career in demand, just a little bit overview. There's over 530 occupations, cannot touch each one of them. If you are interested into the occupation that I mentioned, you can always go to this website called alice.alberta.ca, representing Alberta Learning Information Services. So go to the occupational profile if you're interested to become, for example, lash technician. You type in there and it gives you, okay, what is the requirement to become a lash technician. In the website, it also lists all the educational institution and program. You just need to find out what is the requirement to get that training, and also job available on the market. The best of all is it tells you in this specific occupation, what's the pay, right? We're expected to pay how much an hour as a lash technician. So it tells you pretty much everything that you need to know about the professions. And then the last, just a little bit Alberta Support Center. Right now, we're still not open to the public for in-person. As today, we were told all these 4 Alberta Support Center will be opening on the 4th of April. So the reason I list those locations is for you to know it's a public center. So there are a lot of resources. You can go grab them. We also have public computer you can use, public printer, you can print, you can copy 20 of your resume if you need to send in person. All those resources you can use there for free. So Edmonton North in the Northgate Center, Edmonton South in Millwood Town Center. So it's all located in the mall. It's very easy for you to go, just go shopping and then just stop by and check out the resources available. And then West is located in the Meadowlark. And then City Center, I would not suggest you go to City Center, just not easy to find parking and it's always busy there. So the rest of the 3 centers we have redesigned it, and when it's time to open on the 4th of April, pay a visit and then see what they can offer you for resources that related or not related to employment. So that's all I have for government resources. Now, Q&A. So, anybody have any question for all our speakers? I do have a question, right? I think there's some question when people register, somebody asks about starting a business. Unfortunately, this is not the topic that we covered today. Opening a business, income tax, employee pay, and issue invoice. So for this individual, if you have interest to open a business, I know there are 2 training programs that was funded by the government of Alberta for self-employee. Okay, so or you can connect with the business link to ask detailed questions, because we are not, I'm not gonna be able to answer it here. If you have, how do I say it? Micro Business Training Center, they are 6 months of training center to help you become a self-employee, to open your own business. If you have no idea, but my recommendation would be have a little bit idea what kind of business that you want to open, and that you need to have a little bit idea to talk to people and then write down your business plan, all those things. If you need training, I can send you, this individual can connect with me. I can send you the 2 government funded program for self-employee. So one is with the Micro Business Institution Center. The other one is called Anderson Career Group. So those are the 2 funded self-employee programs. I wanted to ask Violet, because you have been a self-employee, for this question, what would you direct this individual if they want to open a business, where they should start?
I would direct them to the business link, for sure. You mentioned that. Also, so I've been self-employed, I was self-employed part-time and full-time, so for almost 14 years. And I think the key thing is, if you're looking at self-employment, is also trying to identify what makes you stand out from your other competitors to other businesses out there. And then when you're looking at what are the options, so are you going to have a business? So there's something called sole proprietor, which is if you are going to be one person, like working for yourself. If you are going to make more than $30,000, you do need to be registered with a GST number and charge people GST. And then you can, what we call incorporate. So if you want to be incorporated, you would have like a business name, a business number. You need to make sure you have a business license. So I think the business link probably would be a good first step to find out what are the things that you need to consider. And I think there are some resources as well, probably on the government website as well.
Yes. Okay. So somebody asked professional development when you are still employee. So basically, career advancement. So you have worked for a specific employer for a while, and how do you find out there are professional development opportunity for you to kind of advance your career? Anybody can take that.
I can take it.
Sure.
So when you get hired, usually the HR and your supervisor will go through like what your package involves and what your team, like usually professional development and stuff. So referencing my current experience, I just recently joined the government of Alberta, and in my first week, usually the HR, like when they offer you the package, they will let you know like what orientation is. And like usually an orientation will tell you what professional development, how to access those information and stuff. So depending on the company, right, when you get hired, they will definitely give you like information during your first few weeks of when you start the role. Or, like you can even ask your colleagues, right? Because sometimes the company might not offer it internally. You could, take courses externally and then kind of present it to your employer after. So there's lots of options, but mainly when you do get hired, they will definitely tell you what professional development PD that is offered within the company.
Yes. Something I wanted to add on professional development when employee, as far as I know, some employee will have reserved a fund for employee to tap into. Sometimes they don't tell you, so you need to ask your employer or supervisor about it. My personal experience is my employer helped me to pay for one course, and I usually pay for the rest of it. So that's how I managed when I was working for a nonprofit organization. I managed to finish my diploma. My employer probably paid like about 20% of my tuition, and I invest myself, pay the rest of the 80% in order to get the diploma that I wanted. And in order to advance your career, that was from the nonprofit organization and into a government. I wanted to inspire people. You don't have to have a certification first before you advance your career. You just need to get your foot in the door. So your employer will see your effort of improving yourself, and they will offer you the job and wait for you to finish your certification. So just something to keep in mind. Not only the employer is willing to invest, you yourself have to be able to pull something out of your pocket to invest in yourself. If you wanted to have some kind of promotion, or you wanted to continue to pursue a higher position or better pay, you have to put some investment into yourself. Yeah. Okay, so another question here, how and where to find learning program co-op that are fully or partially sponsored by government? So that's a huge question. We don't have a list of those, right? But the two different things. Co-op program is normally with schools, right? Government. Maybe I'll get Chau to answer that better.
Okay. So co-op programs are usually programs that students take, and co-ops is like usually the last year, or it's included in their program. So for example, I was involved at the University of Alberta for the MBA program, and in our undergrad, students have, it's mandatory for them when they're taking like the program to have like a work experience portion of it, and it's usually called co-op programs. So they have like a half a term or the summer where they have to work for a company. So those are usually included in the programs when you're applying for those programs at universities or college, like school, usually universities. Government funded programs, like it depends what you're looking for. But for example, Ling and I used to work, and I think Wilma used to work for nonprofit organizations, and some nonprofit organizations have funded programs through the government where, like a certain amount of years they have to do some type of project. So Ling talked about her programs, and those are sponsored by the government, so they're funded. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Like, are you looking forward to going back to school? Because then if you're applying to those universities, those co-op programs are included in those. If you're looking to kind of do some upgrading and you've already got experience and you just want to upskill, then nonprofit organizations, there's a whole list of those. You could just like Google nonprofit organizations. And I believe Wilma quote, double check, but there is a link that they can access, right? In the Alice website, correct? Yeah. If they search like nonprofit organizations in Edmonton area, it will have like a whole list of what programs and services there are, right?
I haven't done that.
I should know this because I work for the government now.
They haven't built it.
They haven't built it, but you can also Google like Edmonton area if you live in Edmonton or whatever, and you can actually search like what nonprofit organizations and stuff for newcomers are available, because I know there are lots, right? So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Sure. I think the question asked a little bit too broad, because when you say government funded, there's three levels of government: the federal government, provincial government, that's where Chau and I work for, or municipal, like City of Edmonton. And then there's a lot of funded organizations and nonprofit, like ETA, that's funded for adult learning. So it's a lot of different organizations that are funded. So those are different. And Ling have introduced the 4 program. Again, some are funded by the federal and provincial together. Some, like there's a whole lot of provincial and federal government joint contract together. So I think it's really important, again, what you want, right? What's your situation? Why you wanted to look for a learning program? What kind of learning program? There's so big of learning program. So I think I'm gonna stop answering that question, because if I wanted to say like specific, if you are immigrant, that's another different. And if you are post-secondary students, like when I say post-secondary means any NA students, university student, those are student loan program, okay? Those are not we're talking about here. So I'm gonna keep that question. Whoever asks that question, you need to connect with me. I need to verify, okay? Or Ling, do you have any better answer to help this person understand about?
Yeah, I just want to add more information about the training program provided by EMCN. I think most of nonprofit organizations in a similar situation. So first of all, because our program are funded by different level, like government, right, provincial or federal. Usually we have requirement for the employment status for candidates. So if you have a full-time job, usually you're not qualified for those kind of training program provided by nonprofit organization. You're either unemployed or marginally employed, which means less than 20 hours per week, your working hours. So if you have full-time job, it's kind of challenging, to find a training program or like upgrading program in most nonprofit organization, I would say. But you can, look for, like Wilma and Chau mentioned, maybe you have like PD fee provided by your employer. You can also apply for, I think Alberta government provide like job grants, right? If your employer is willing to go through all of those kind of, financial support for you, that'll be a great option as well. So I just want to add one more information in that part. And also, I think like self-employee, if I'm not wrong, I remember Action for Health Community. This nonprofit organization, they provide a specific program to support newcomers who are willing to start their own business. Yeah, so maybe it's a good resource for you.
Yeah, so Action for Healthy Community.
Yeah.
EMCN used to have that self-employee program, but now they don't. So now it's
I think if I have some clients have those kind of inquiries before, I think EMCN is quite a, we can provide as much as before, like this kind of service for people who are looking for self-employee support.
I found something that I put on the chat. So it's the www.alberta.ca training / this is part of my department that I just recently joined. So when you go into this link, you can search like different areas. So if I search Edmonton, then I'll have all the Edmonton training programs, and it also has like self-employment resources, integrated training, immigrant bridging programs. So like Wilma mentioned, there's a lot of different resources, but do check out this link. And if you need more help with it, like you can connect with me after. But yeah, it's really self-explanatory. It depends what type of programs you're looking for. But I found it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks to Chau. That's good. So there's a link in the chat box if you're not seeing it. So just click on your right-hand second chat box and you'll see it, okay? Yeah, so that's pretty reliable. That will lead to our last question. Any reliable resource for PR older or newcomer? So I think when you come to event like this and some of the link, it has the alberta.ca, that's formal Alberta government website. Remember my last slides? You can go access those Alberta Support Center. Any resources located in the Alberta Support Center should be reliable. But again, you have to do your own due diligence to find out, right? They are reliable, but I'm not quite sure, again, what you're looking for as a newcomer. So I would suggest just stop by into Alberta Support Center. It used to call Labor Market Information Center, but now it just, expanded to include not employment, but also other information, like any government programs, anything related to life in Alberta, and it would have resources there. If you cannot find what you're looking for, you can always ask a worker there to direct you. Okay, so I also wanted to take a look at some of the questions in the chat box people ask, and thank you, Chau, answer some of the questions. Somebody asked about reference, right? How important is to have a work reference is really important. My personal experience, at least with the government, you need to have at least 3, right? One is have to be direct supervisor who know your work that you work with. So it's important to me. that you need to be able to provide 3 contact person. If a newcomer that you have not worked in Canada, how can you build your reference? You can build your reference through your school with your teachers, program that you assist with as a volunteer. So volunteer coordinator can offer you a reference if you need it, but you might need to commit like 30 hours or something, some specific number of hours. So you have to build your reference. Anybody wanted to kind of talk about that? How important is to have reference? I think in pre-screening process, not quite. It's important, right? To me, it's also important when you go to the interview. To me, it's not quite yet. You don't quite need to have it ready, but once you've done your interview or when you prepare to go to your interview, you need to be prepared to provide reference at that time. Pre-screening, you just tell people, yeah, I have reference, but you have to work on it if you have not as a newcomer. Yeah. Anybody wanted to say about that?
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So pre-screening to me is usually like not a lot of employers in Canada ask you for references when you apply for a job, like when you just submit your application. But usually after, like maybe they've met with you already, right? You want to have that prepared. So that's what I meant by pre-screening, is that you're still going through the process of getting the job, right? So you went to the interview, but you want to make sure that you have those 3 references ready. So they might ask you for it. They will usually, if they're interested. And those are usually like 3 employers that you've worked for. So usually not like your colleagues, right? It's like your supervisor, your manager that can talk about your strengths, like where do they enjoy working for you. So my recommendation, and I'm pretty sure Violet and Ling and Wilma will approve, is always ask your references. Will you be a good reference for me? Like, what would you say? Right? I've had, people that have applied and they thought, it was a good reference, but references can kind of turn off the potential offer for you, because if they don't have like a good idea of what they're going to say about you, you kind of want to know, right? So what would you say? Like, what are my strong points? So make sure you ask them too. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
I'm just going to add one thing maybe to what Chau said.
Sure.
I would also say with references, it's okay if they're outside of Canada. I've done references through WhatsApp, many references. So it's okay if they're outside of Canada.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. But one thing with references, you need to notify the person that you ask for reference. Okay, notify them what type of job you're looking for, and have a little bit confidence that they will offer you a positive reference, not going to say anything negative. If you have any sense that this individual not going to give you a positive reference, rather don't use it. Okay, so it's important to have like Chau said, potentially you already so close, you don't want to at the last step and being turned down, right, for a job offer. So make sure you build your good reference. Somebody also asked a question. I find that interesting here in the chat box. She said that, would you talk about a little bit cautions or prevention from any possible trap while applying for jobs? So my advice to my answer to this question is more, do your research. Okay, what does this company offer you, right? Did you apply or did you not apply? Don't just go into something you're not sure. There's a lot of scam out there as well, right? You need to do your research. If you cannot find any answer, talk to people who are more experienced. Ask your friends and family, hey, this company offered me this interview, and if it sounds weird, sounds not quite right, you need to check it out. Okay, any instant that you have about the company that did not make you feel comfortable, then you need to have a second thought about going into the interview. Any other tips that our speaker can offer for these questions?
I just want to share some experience with my clients, because one of our participants just emailed me yesterday. She received a job offer from like somebody find her on LinkedIn, okay? And she never applied for that job. Actually, it's a position from Government of Alberta. And she said, like they asked me the drive license number and also fill out some forms. So that's kind of, red flag you're supposed to be aware of. Before the interview, no employer will really ask you any like identity information, like your SIM card number or your drive license number, or ask information about your credit card or something like that. So I think it should be really, be aware for job seekers to be aware of those kind of job scams. There are so many different kind of job scams nowadays.
That's a good one. Yeah, you should never ever give your SIM number over the phone. You should never ever give out any your personal information, including your date of birth, driver license number, SIM number in particular, just to avoid identity theft. They can steal your identity and apply for a whole bunch credit cards. So no employer will ask you those things until you've done an interview. You have the job offer formally by paper, right? Normally you ask, what is my job offer? When I start? What is the pay? Where's the location I'll be working at? So you gotta have those on paper as a employment contract to confirm before you, and then don't even. Chau maybe have some, like, you just started the job. You don't even need to give anything until you need to get paid. Right? I don't think we will ask before we interview the person.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add too is that like Wilma and I think a lot of the other speakers mentioned that you have to do the homework, right? No one can help you because you, number one, need to know about yourself, like what is it that you want, what type of role you're looking for. And Violet talked about like the different resumes and stuff, because that is on the piece of paper a representation of what you can offer to the employer. So if you do the work and you're like filling it out, then you're kind of like preparing for the interview too, because you can't skip a step, right? So as you're doing it, you'll like kind of figure out like what are my transferable skills, like what are they asking, right? And then when you get called for an interview and they're asking like what is your work history, you're not going to pull up your resume and like read everything, so it'll prepare you for the second step. And the thing I've always stressed for people that I helped coach is that you need to kind of know yourself. You need to kind of do the homework. You have a lot of resources. There's lots of programs. There's also us as connections, but you kind of want to do your end of things and do your research. And with those scams, it wouldn't happen if, let's say, you didn't apply for it, right? And like they're like, hey, you apply for government of Alberta. Obviously, you kind of know. So if you do the homework, there's less chance of you being scammed, because you've already done the research and the legwork to help you prepare for that career.
So I just review some of the questions here. Don't get me wrong, any questions is good questions, okay? Ask question is better than not say anything, so we know that you have a questions, and we will try to answer. It's just some of the question like it depends on situation, so we can give you a specific answers. I think I'll go through some of those, and the only question left will be Candace, that you asked me if I can explain a little bit more about one of the slides about the job opening from 2019 to 2028. the differences of expansion and replacement demand, please. So I'm not exactly sure. So opening, expansion. So the blue, compare the blue and the green. Is that the question, Candace?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so this is just the blue one is job opening. So again, the slide I got is from the Alberta Alice website. Actually, it's also a workshop that I attended last week with the BGS. So job opening expansion demand versus job opening replacement demand. So you can see when the green part is bigger than the blue part, you know it's going to be an increase in that demand. Okay, so you can think of it, the blue part is more current expansion, and the green could be down the road. To me, you don't quite need to fully know, like I what do you understand about this replacement demand? Like to me, it's greater than the blue, then that's the green part. Most of the sectors will have bigger demand, and that matching the unemployment rate decrease and job opening increase. Did I explain it? Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, for example, if you look at house occupations, so it looks like the blue part is a little bit greater than the green part. So it's equally or a little bit greater. So we have big demand for house occupation. Healthcare aide, nurses, doctors, they all leaving the province, and you know why, right? And and then well, I lost 2 of my family doctor in 2 years, so not happy about that. So health sectors, yeah, we have expanded. The demand is higher right now, right? Down the road will be shorter, maybe smaller demands. But the sales and services is always going bigger and bigger, always. That's why we have temporary foreign worker coming in to fill those entry-level position, right? So if I wanted to expand that, that's what that means, is that we have high demand for health occupation, we will similar high demand for health related occupations. And then for business, now we have this shorter blue part. We have this demand for about 90,000 jobs, but in the future, we have over 120 jobs for the business and finance and administration. So it's bigger demand. The replacement demand is bigger than the expansion demand. That's what my understanding. So just refer to that a little bit. I think we're done. We kind of go over. I know it's a huge topic and it's ongoing conversation. If anybody who wanted to continue this kind of conversation, my thought is in person. Maybe you have small group discussion, and if you want even one-on-one, you can always connect with me through the Edmonton Taiwanese Association. It's something that I am passionate about. That is also what I'm doing, as well as a volunteer. And thank you so much for my colleagues, guest speakers, Violet, Chau, and Ling, for your precious time on a Sunday afternoon to share with us your insights. And I also want to thank my directors, Edmonton Taiwanese Association. We are a nonprofit organization, and we are trying to pull together this organization. And Diane, our vice president, Aji YC Lu, and also who's doing the Facebook Live, Karen, for us. So that will conclude our workshop today. I hope that you all get some answer to the 3 questions that I asked you. What's the job means to you? And what's the profession means to you? And what's the career means to you? I want you to believe, as long as you have the dream, Chau have touched that, make it a goal. So a goal, you have to have a plan, how you achieve them. So keep that in mind. You can have a career. Career to me, it could be a full-time mom, stay at home, and you volunteer and you feel happy. It's not necessary to own a business and to trap yourself into a business that you have no free time. That's not a career to me. So just conclusion for today's workshop, and I wanted to thank you again for your attending. Have a good rest of your Sunday afternoon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks.